when it comes to the DC Extended Universe, it hasn't exactly been the most passable. The first Man of Steel movie just wasn't that great of a movie, in my opinion, and was kind of a defamation on the whole foundation of Superman. BVS was a total train wreck, and Suicide Squad, well, made me almost want to go out and throw that movie in the garbage. And then along came a little movie this past year with Wonder Woman, changing the landscape of what DC could be as a symbol for hope. And as a movie for Wonder Woman, it's completely a standard superhero film, but it does have some elements that elevate it higher than some of its other contemporaries. So now it comes down to this: Justice League. Justice League has had one of the most varied production histories I've seen in all of cinema so far this year. Not only did it go through two different directors due to the fact that Zack Snyder's daughter unfortunately committed suicide and he had to leave set due to the grievances of his family and for himself, having to work on the project while also having to deal with the stress and grief of losing a daughter is something that's very, very saddening to hear. And, you know, it almost made me question whether or not I wanted to go a little bit easier on this film because of the fact that he had to endure so much stuff while also working on the film. And his replacement, Joss Whedon, seemed like a natural choice, seeing how he did a team-up movie prior for Marvel Cinematic Universe, well, actually twice, with Avengers and then Avengers Age of Ultron, and it seemed completely natural. So a lot of the times it felt like an Ant-Man situation where it was like, oh yeah, so which decisions were Peyton Reed's and which ones were Edgar Wright's? But at times, it didn't feel that way. While Ant-Man had a very confusing history and, you know, it did have, you know, different tones and different things, you could obviously tell which ones were Peyton Reed moves and, you know, the other one, you know, Edgar Wright. You could tell the clear differences in that movie. Whereas Justice League felt very consistent with the tone and what they wanted to do with the movie. And there were certain jokes in the movie that, upon researching them, was like, oh, well, Zack Snyder did that joke? Wow, that's actually kind of cool. Now, I will tell you that Justice League is not exactly a perfect movie. This isn't a good movie at all, but it's not a bad one either. It's very inoffensive, and it's just kind of there for fluff. And for that, I kinda liked it. I mean, again, it's a standard, like, oh, you know, big guy comes down to Earth, wants to destroy the world. There's 3 magical cubes that if he has them all, he's going to destroy the Earth. It felt like a mix of the Avengers with Loki mixed with Dragon Ball. It felt weird. But what I can say, what really kind of stands out for this film is the team dynamic. The team feels very cohesive, and everyone plays a certain part in the film, but it's not exactly like, you know, breathtaking or anything. It's just like, oh, well, they're just working together. And when they're working together and you have these scenes where they fight together, that's really impressive. And the slow-mo at certain times actually works. I feel like with the slow-mo stuff, it works more with the character of Flash than it does with any other character. And when it does it with his character, Ezra Miller's character, The Flash, it really works. But the biggest problem that this film faces is a very rushed plot, and that's due to Warner Brothers, you know, their stupid executive decision of like, oh yeah, you know, this movie has to be under 2 hours so that we can fill more box office seats, so that we can make more money. And in that sense, like, from a business perspective, it makes sense, but from a consumer standpoint, it makes no sense at all. Like, the whole point of selling a movie is to tell a cohesive story that isn't rushed, and a lot of what this movie is very rushed. You know, scenes start, and then they end, and it continues to another scene, and it feels very rushed. And, you know, I kind of wish that, you know, Warner Brothers hadn't made that dumb decision of like, oh, we're gonna make it 2 hours long, instead of having the original Zack Snyder cut, which was like 2 hours and 35 minutes. Seriously, Warner Brothers, what is your freaking deal with this? You did this before with Batman vs. Superman, you did this before with Suicide Squad, and now you're doing it with Justice League. I can't believe you guys. Seriously, get off of that horse. It's not safe for anyone. Let's talk about Steppenwolf real quick. Steppenwolf is not a great villain. In fact, he's probably really forgettable. He's kind of like Malekith from Thor the Dark World. Like, he wants to destroy the universe or destroy the world to make it in his own image using some magical property. And again, in both instances, he's very forgettable. Like, it feels very inconsistent with what we're seeing. Like, the heroes really stand out, and the villain doesn't really match the coolness of the team. It doesn't match, like, you know, the same level. Like, Steppenwolf feels like a very lower level thing. And I guess for some reasons it works because, well, he's kind of the middleman between the Justice League and Darkseid, and they're building up Darkseid, and that's what they're gonna do. It's like, oh, it's another Thanos thing. I get it. I mean, this movie, again, I'm not making it out to be that this movie is lame or anything. It kind of is in certain ways. It's just not that good of a movie. It feels, again, as I said before, it's very inoffensive and very passable. It's very easy to digest, and it's not, you know, anything harmful to you or anything. It's not as bad as, say, Batman vs. Superman or, you know, like X-Men Origins Wolverine. It's just one of those movies where I'll say, okay, I'll put it on for like 2 hours and it'll be okay. You know, in the end, it didn't really fully impress me like the trailers made it out to be. Like, the trailers made it out to be something like grand and epic, and this one felt very, very small. And also, if you were wondering if Superman's back in this movie, he is, very predictably so, but what they kind of do with him is kind of interesting, even if the scenes with him are very, very short. I don't get it. Like, why does every scene need to be very short? Like, it left me with way too many questions of, like, well, how did Clark get to this point? You know, like, certain things I can't really get into it because of spoilers, and I'll be able to talk about it in a future video. But it just seems to me that Justice League, again, faces so many problems. So, to sum it all up, the problems of the movie is that it's rushed, it's very short of a movie, and it left me a little bit disappointed in many areas. The positives, though, are that the team dynamic works for the most part. The slow-mo shots were kind of neat, I guess, and Superman actually comes back, and he's actually kind of more like Superman. The music by Danny Elfman is actually pretty good, too, making several homages to, like some of the League's sort of pasts. Like, Batman's theme uses some of Tim Burton's theme to kind of emphasize, like, the history of Batman. Superman's theme is a mixture of Hans Zimmer's theme and the original John Williams score from '79. I like some of the musical scores in this. So in the end, it left me again with a sort of middle-of-the-road sort of situation, where it's not a good movie in my opinion, and it's not a bad one, it's just kind of okay. I mean, again, I'll sit down and watch it, it's just not one I would go and immediately watch again, or not really something I would buy, like, firsthand on Blu-ray, you know, on the day it comes out. It'll probably be one of those, like, Black Friday deals for me. So in the end, I'm going to give Justice League a C-. Thank you guys so much for listening in to Spearman Studios, and hopefully I'll have a review of Coco next week, and I'll also try to do some other videos as well. There is going to be a longer spoiler-filled discussion with me and a couple of my friends who went to go see the film, and we'll try to record that as soon as possible, but no promises. So, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.